Have you ever walked into a room where you're the youngest person and everyone expects you to just sit down and take notes? Yeah, me too. But this summer, I didn't just take notes. I took initiative. I asked the right questions and helped build solutions to real problems that this company faced. I stopped feeling like just an intern. I started feeling like a real contributor. That is what I like to call the Hartford effect, a phenomenon in which a total stranger to this company, a person who honestly might not even know a lot of the basic key functions of their job, can come in and really make an impact. Today I'm here to tell you how I was able to make that impact by working with the Enterprise Digital Enablement team, and how I was able to use that to tap into opportunities that I could previously have never imagined. But before we get into all that, I want to introduce myself. My name is Garag, and I'm an incoming student at the University of Virginia. In the fall, I plan to major in finance and statistics. Outside of work, or a fun fact about me actually, is that this is my second year here at the Hartford. Last year, I was in the office of the CIO, where I explored concepts like financial analytics and computer science. And this year, I was able to supplement a lot of that learning that I got from last year with much more new learning. Outside of work, I enjoy running track and field, participating in various volunteering and leadership activities, and running my company EcoScholars, which is dedicated toward upcycling old academic texts. In the future, I hope to pursue a career in investment banking. But that's enough about me. Let's get into the role and the bulk of the work my team and I were able to do this year. So, Enterprise Digital Enablement, what does that mean? Firstly, our team is responsible for creating the entire user interface of what our customers interact with. So if our customers want to do business with us, if they Google thehartford.com, those pages that they're interacting with is things that the Enterprise Digital Enablement team designed. And so we facilitate that entire customer experience. And so my role at the Hartford this summer was to contribute to that, but in a slightly different way. So the kind of statement that I made to somewhat summarize what my role was leveraging the power of artificial intelligence to propel the Hartford toward the forefront of digital innovation. So what does that mean? What that means is, essentially, a lot of the Hartford's web pages, some of them are more legacy and reflect a lot of the older branding. And as you all know, recently the Hartford went through a total rebranding in terms of their colors, their logos, fonts, all of that. So transforming those pages is an immense task for some of the web pages that haven't been transferred. And so doing so would require an insane amount of human capital as well as just money to do so, right? But through AI and through its powers and by leveraging it, we can use that tool to convert the old code into the new code and make it so that we have these new pages a lot quicker and improve the pace in which we are doing business. So that was essentially what I was getting at with the role and what the majority of my work here was. So to get into some of the accomplishments of what I was able to do here. So firstly, I had a lot of new learning. Coming into this, I didn't have a huge amount of computer science context. I wasn't familiar with HTML or Java or anything like that. But I was assigned these Pluralsight tutorials, and I was able to just kind of go through them and start learning and start getting a grasp for the various logic elements of it and just basic coding in general. And so that was a very important experience for me, just to kind of get a familiarity with it. And through that, in that process, I also got a familiarity with the various programs that computer scientists use, things like VS Code, GitHub Copilot, things like that. In addition to that, I was also able to get a lot of exposure and get some learning within the financial aspect of things, and learn from people like Josh Lemire and the various people at HIMCO who were very supportive. And I learned about things like the stock market, Bloomberg terminal processes, like various documentation that companies like the Hartford must file every quarter, every year, things like that. In addition to that, I also had an immense amount of networking opportunities to meet hundreds of people across the Hartford and specifically with 30 plus officials within finance, technology, HIMCO, and just learn about what their job is and what do they do and how exactly do they go about doing that and the things they learned throughout their careers. So learning from them was very, very helpful for me. But in addition to that is also mostly the projects that I worked on. And that kind of I touched on the project a little bit. But to start, the project I started with was just creating like a personal project to explore VS Code and explore coding a little bit. And then after that, I started working on the prompt engineering, which was the much bigger project, which involved converting thousands of lines of code in an effort to save money and Yeah, but essentially my role was troubleshooting AI and making sure that the conversion that I was doing was accurate and we weren't losing data, we weren't losing code, or there weren't elements of it that were incorrect. So to put this kind of to, I don't know, make it a little bit easier to visualize, this is an AI prompt that I would give to GitHub Copilot. So pretty much what I would do is I would copy paste this in after designing it and adding a lot of different elements and figure out where is AI making the mistakes. And so if it's making a mistake, I would add something to the prompt so that it stops doing that. And what it will do is convert the old code, what you see in red, to the green. So the old code, the red, what you're seeing there is the old branding, and that's old code that's being cut by AI. So none of this is manual coding. And so essentially what AI is doing is taking over the role of the developer, and by allowing us to change it in this way, we're saving a huge amount of time. And so that, what you guys are seeing now, is the actual, what it looks like for the user and what they're going to see when they go to it. And so you can see the older branding, the older logos, color scheme, things like that, fonts. And you're seeing that in action when we update that code. So what value does this bring to the Hartford? I think the biggest thing that this does is, first of all, it just streamlines the entire way in which we're doing our modernization processes for software engineering, right? Because we're able to cut costs tremendously, and to be exact, right, I think the number is around $1.5 to $1.8 million, which we would have invested into human capital, into hiring people to manually code all of this stuff, all of these programs. And so that's a huge part of it. And in doing so, we're also increasing the pace of business, increasing the customer experience, and making it even better, while also exploring AI. Because let's face it, AI is the future, and understanding it, and the Hartford's already doing a phenomenal job in exploring it and getting familiar with it, because that's going to be very important to do. And so exploring it even further within our department and everywhere is a very important thing to do. And so I think that in and of itself is a huge point of value to the Hartford. So obviously coming in, I did have some challenges, and I learned a lot from them. So I mentioned a little earlier that I didn't have much of a computer science context, and so a lot of those technical things were my biggest challenges, right? Getting familiar with programs that were foreign to me, like VS Code and like GitHub, as well as just AI, right? It's kind of, I guess it's new to all of us, or we're all still learning about it and still figuring out what it can and cannot do, and where we need to edit it, make it better, and how to do that, right? So understanding those technical things was probably a big challenge for me. But I think throughout the internship and through practice and kind of like iterating through and keep continuing to work on it, I was able to develop those technical skills and get a lot better at it. Not perfect by any means, but still getting to a point where I'm a lot more comfortable than I was coming in. In addition to that, a lesson that was very critical for me was the fact that asking for help is a very good thing, and collaborating with people. And coming in, I was a little bit like, okay, I'll try and figure it out myself. I don't want to ask too many questions, but I realized that there's no point in doing that. It's much more beneficial to reach out to people and get help and use the minds around you, because there are so many phenomenal people here who are more than willing to help. And kind of piggybacking off of that, with people willing to help, networking. It's very important, and it's very important to go just beyond, not just within your kind of your sector, your division, like technology, for example. But in this internship, I was able to go even beyond that, into finance, into HIMCO, into like internal audit, things like that, and just going beyond, really learning from as many people as you can. I think that was a critical lesson that I learned. So kind of to look ahead a little bit into applying some of the skills, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to pursue a career in investment banking. And so some of the skills that I learned from this internship that I can apply include like, basic coding fundamentals, things that I can apply to, financial models, data analysis, anything like that, as well as just AI, because like I mentioned, it is the future, and it's going to be critical for efficiency within finance, within every field. So understanding that is also very important. Additionally, people skills, right? Being able to network, being able to work with other people, ask for help. Doing things like that is very critical within finance and investment banking, and so that's something that I'll always carry with me for a very long time, knowing that, alongside actually understanding core financial concepts, which I learned through this internship as well. So overall, just a huge amount of skills that I can apply to my career and the rest of my life. So very thankful for that experience. Now to kind of reflect a little bit on this internship. So for me, this has been, I think you guys can probably tell by now, it's been a tremendous learning opportunity. One in which I was able to do a huge amount of things by exploring with so many people because of the supportive community I found here. In addition, I believe that this internship provided a computer science context to my passion for finance and investment banking, which I believe it solidified it, but while also allowing me to explore a little bit more on the technical side and figure out, okay, how do we solve problems in a more critical way, thinking about things a little bit more critically and analyzing them a little further. Also, I had a tremendous amount of great mentors, people like Jared and so many others who were more than willing to help me every step of the way, where it made me feel very comfortable and welcome, and allowed me to really, build a lot of professional relationships. So kind of to compare a little bit about between last year and this year, I think this year I was able to network a lot more and meet so many more people. I kind of mentioned it a little earlier, right? Going beyond just that bubble that I'm in. And so I think that was a very beneficial thing about this experience, and I'm very thankful because so many people were here to help me and help facilitate that. Angelica and Mari, Jared, so many others for setting me up with so many different people. So that was definitely something I was very thankful for for this year. So to get some acknowledgments and some appreciation. So there's a lot of people who went behind, helping me out here and getting me to this presentation. So I'm very thankful to so many of you. My manager, Jared, Josh, Jennifer, Mari, Angelica, the Hartford, Justin, Joe, Brenda, Jack, Stefan, the skip level speakers, very thankful to you all, Michael, Spencer, Kavita, and Robin. So thank you all. Have a great day.